Have you ever walked away from a conversation thinking, that went well, only to never hear from her again? What if the reason had nothing to do with your looks, your job, or even what you said? Because in the first 5 minutes, the human brain is already collecting dozens of tiny signals. Most people don't even realize they're sending them. And here's the surprising part. The things women notice first are often the exact things men pay the least attention to. Stay until the end, because the fifth point is so subtle that most men never realize they're being judged by it. And once you understand it, the way you approach first conversations may completely change. Let's dive in. First impressions aren't magic, they're psychology. Within moments of meeting someone, our brains begin answering silent questions. Can I trust this person? Do I feel comfortable around them? Are they confident or pretending to be? Women don't consciously make a checklist. Instead, their minds naturally process hundreds of small details and combine them into one overall feeling. That's why someone can seem attractive without saying much, and why someone else can say all the right things but still leave the wrong impression. Today's video isn't about tricks or manipulation. It's about understanding the subtle psychological signals that influence first impressions and becoming more aware of the habits that quietly shape how people experience you. Let's begin with the first thing. Number 5, your emotional presence. Imagine two men walking into the same room. The first constantly scans around, fidgets with his phone, laughs nervously, and seems distracted. The second isn't louder. He isn't trying to impress anyone, he's simply present. When someone speaks, he listens. When he smiles, it feels genuine. When he answers, he doesn't rush. Interestingly, emotional presence is one of the first qualities people subconsciously notice. Why? Because calm behavior often signals emotional stability. Our brains naturally associate steady body language with confidence and emotional control. This doesn't mean you should act serious or emotionless. It means being mentally present instead of constantly worrying about how you're being perceived. Think about conversations you've enjoyed. Chances are it wasn't because the other person had perfect stories, it was because they made you feel like you mattered. Presence creates connection. Distraction creates distance. So before worrying about saying something impressive, ask yourself one simple question. Am I actually here in this conversation? Sometimes that's enough to change the entire interaction. Number 4, how you treat the environment around you. Here's something fascinating. Women often notice how a man treats people who have nothing to offer him. The cashier, the waiter, the receptionist, even strangers walking past. Not because they're testing him, but because behavior tends to stay consistent. Psychologists sometimes call this behavioral consistency. People assume today's small actions predict tomorrow's bigger ones. Imagine you're at a coffee shop, you order your drink. The employee accidentally gets your order wrong. One man immediately becomes irritated. Another politely explains the mistake and thanks the employee after it's fixed. Which one leaves the stronger impression? Probably the second, not because he was trying to impress anyone, but because respect is difficult to fake consistently. Kindness under normal circumstances is nice. Kindness during small inconveniences reveals character, and character often speaks much louder than appearance. So the next time you're out, remember, someone may not be paying attention to what you're wearing. They're paying attention to how you treat people. Before we continue, have you ever realized later that someone noticed something about you that you never even thought about? Maybe it was your posture, your smile, or something completely unexpected. Let us know in the comments and keep watching, because the next 3 points become even more psychological. Number 3, your ability to listen. Many people think attraction begins with talking. In reality, connection often begins with listening. Picture this. You meet someone new. Every time you speak, they interrupt with another story about themselves. After 5 minutes, you know everything about them, but they know almost nothing about you. Now imagine the opposite. Someone asks thoughtful questions, listens without rushing. Remember something you mentioned just a minute earlier. How does that make you feel? Probably respected, seen, comfortable. There's an interesting psychological principle. People usually remember how someone made them feel more than the exact words they said. Active listening creates emotional comfort, and emotional comfort creates trust. Listening isn't staying silent while waiting for your turn, it's genuine curiosity, making eye contact, reacting naturally, allowing pauses without feeling awkward. Ironically, the people who try the hardest to sound interesting often forget the easiest way to become memorable, make the other person feel heard. Number 2, the confidence, hidden in small behaviors. Confidence isn't always loud. Sometimes it's incredibly quiet. It's walking at a relaxed pace instead of rushing, speaking clearly instead of forcing a deep voice, standing comfortably instead of constantly adjusting your clothes. These tiny behaviors create an overall impression long before anyone analyzes your personality. Researchers studying nonverbal communication have repeatedly found that people naturally interpret relaxed movements as confidence. That doesn't mean pretending to be fearless. Real confidence isn't the absence of nervousness, it's remaining yourself even while feeling nervous. Imagine two interviews. One candidate memorizes every line but sounds rehearsed. The other occasionally pauses, thinks before answering, and speaks naturally. Who seems more authentic? Usually the second. Authenticity feels believable. Perfection often feels manufactured. The same idea applies to conversations. You don't need perfect jokes, perfect posture, or perfect timing. People generally respond better to someone who feels real than someone who feels perfect. Confidence isn't proving your worth, it's acting as though you don't need to. Number one, whether you make her feel comfortable. This may be the most important point of all. When people think about first impressions, they often focus on how they appear, but psychologically, the stronger question is this: how does the other person feel around me? Comfort influences nearly every social interaction. Does the conversation feel balanced? Does she feel interrupted, judged, pressured, or does she feel relaxed enough to simply be herself? Think back to someone you've instantly liked. Maybe they weren't the funniest or the most successful, but being around them felt easy. There was no pressure, no performance, just genuine conversation. That's powerful because emotional safety allows people to show their real personalities. When someone feels comfortable, conversations naturally become longer, smiles become genuine, laughter becomes effortless. This isn't something you force, it's something you create through patience, respect, and authenticity. The irony is, many men spend enormous energy trying to appear impressive, while forgetting that making someone feel comfortable often leaves a far stronger impression than trying to look extraordinary. People remember how they felt, not every sentence they heard. And that's a lesson worth remembering in every relationship, not just romantic ones. Bringing it all together. Let's step back for a moment. Notice something interesting. None of today's 5 points were about expensive clothes, luxury cars, perfect looks, or memorizing clever pickup lines. Instead, they were about qualities that quietly communicate who you are: your presence, your respect for others, your listening skills, your natural confidence, and the emotional atmosphere you create. These signals are difficult to fake because they come from everyday habits. That's actually good news, because habits can improve. You don't need to become someone else. You simply become more intentional about the signals you're already sending. The next time you meet someone new, don't ask yourself, how can I impress her? Instead, ask, how can I make this interaction genuine? That small shift changes everything because people are naturally drawn toward authenticity, not perfection. First impressions happen quickly, but they aren't controlled by one magical moment. They're built from dozens of tiny choices that happen almost automatically. The way you listen, the way you respond, the way you carry yourself, and most importantly, the way other people feel after spending just a few minutes with you. Those first 5 minutes aren't about pretending to be someone you're not. They're about allowing your best qualities to show naturally. And often, the smallest details create the biggest impact. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, make sure to subscribe for more psychology-based insights that help you better understand people and yourself. Now we'd love to hear from you. Which of these 5 points surprised you the most? Or have you ever realized someone formed a first impression about you based on something completely unexpected? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video valuable, give it a like and share it with someone who might benefit from these insights. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.